They also work from home.
Hey everyone, I'm Amanda with Sweet Pieces, and welcome to our Getting Started with Chalk Paint Demo Day. We have a lot of lovely customers here today who are ready to tackle projects, right? But we're a little afraid, and Sweet Pieces to the rescue. We don't want you to be afraid of your projects. We want them to be quick and easy. We want them to be beautiful. We want them to look innovative. We want our friends to swoon over the job that we've done, right? For them to come in and say, oh my God, where did you buy that piece of furniture? And you can just have that pride of saying, well, I did it. But be careful, because they might want you to paint all of their furniture too. So that's what you have to be careful. So today's demo is about how to get started, so how to just jump right into your project. So I want to make this super easy peasy. The first thing you want to do is you want to clean your furniture. So we recommend using a pre-paint cleaner. This is the one that we use here in the shop. It's the brand is Cred Cutter. Basically, this is going to degrease your piece. It's going to take off any pledge buildup, any kind of residue that might be on the piece. So I just sprayed it on my rag. You can also just spray it right on the piece. I am using my favorite disposable rags here, our sweet shop towels, which we do carry. You could just throw them away when you're done with them. We also have other rags that are reusable that you can wash them. But these are really nice for doing like cleaning and stuff like that. So I'm just kind of wiping this down. I'm going to clean it up. And you can see this piece is really glossy. I don't know if you could tell that on camera, but this piece is very glossy. It's very shiny. It has a real finish to it. And that's okay. It's no challenge for chalk paint. It's going to be super easy. So you're going to clean, and you want to just make sure that it's dry. You don't want to do it where you have like wet product on there. And as you can see here, I'm leaving the hardware right on. So I'm going to paint right over this hardware. So you, of course, can remove it. If you want to, say, change your hardware, you would definitely remove it, because if you don't, then if you take this off, you're going to have, obviously, no paint there. So we're probably going to just leave this. Sometimes with the older furniture, it's a little bit of a challenge to find the exact size hardware. So we measured this, and I didn't have anything in the shop that was this particular width, so we said we're just going to leave it. We're going to work with it. So this side, just so you know, has one coat of chalk paint on it. This was put on yesterday, and you can lay chalk paint on much thicker, but you don't have to. We like to do it in more thin coats, and I always tell my customers, your first coat is going to kind of look bad. It's going to be, it's going to look like primer, and that's okay. Wait till you see how beautifully that second coat covers. So this is actually, the color I'm using is a custom mix that we made using these three colors, our favorites, Paris Gray, French Linen, and Country Gray. So this just created, as you can see here, this beautiful, mushroomy, taupey kind of a color. We love the colors, the stock colors that we have, but it's really nice to mix them, to really just get very creative and to really customize the experience. So we've mixed this up, we've made a nice batch. We're actually painting another dress for this color. And this, it seems a little bit thick to me, which is pretty typical with chalk paint. If it is a little bit thick, you can just take a little bit of a spray bottle, a little bit of water, and add it to it, just to mix it up, and that will thin it out a little bit. I always have a spray bottle on hand whenever I'm working on a project, because water is chalk paint's best friend. It just works really nicely with it. If you're laying it on too thick, or if you're really heavy-handed and you start globbing it on there, the water will just help to smooth it out. So I'm using my favorite Annie Sloan brush here. This is a small Annie Sloan brush. And if it doesn't say Annie Sloan on the handle, it's not Annie Sloan. So just be careful with what's out there. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started painting. I'm just going to paint right on here. And just so you know, with your brushes, when you get them home, you do want to prep them a little bit. They're going to come in a plastic. There's going to be a plastic on here. And you just want to take that off. You want to take your brush and kind of bang it on the edge of the table, fluff it up a little bit, just to get out any loose bristles that might be in there. There will be a few loose bristles. But then you can go ahead and get started. So you can see here, does this seem so scary now? Does this seem a little less scary? I mean, look how easy that is. Now, here's the other beautiful thing. You don't have to be like, you know, perfect and paint like smooth straight lines. You could just kind of paint in every direction. And I love these brushes because they're so dense, they hold a ton of paint. So it's really easy to just get that paint spread on there. And, you know, just to kind of jab it in there, just to get all the little intricacies filled in with paint. So I kind of jab it, and then you can take your brush and just kind of smooth everything out. Chalk paint is very self-leveling. So even if you do see some brush strokes with your first coats, it's really going to smooth out. I mean, if you feel this, it's so smooth. There's no like real texture to it. The other beauty of chalk paint is you can create texture. So if you want texture, which we do that a lot with chalk paint, you can create it just by laying it on thickly and letting that texture kind of show through. So either way, it basically does whatever you want it to do. So, questions? Anybody have questions? No questions? Wow, I must be doing a really good job.
So you don't have to sand.
You don't have to sand. I know it's almost unbelievable. You don't have to sand the piece. And you can see how nicely this is sticking, right? It's not like it's peeling away, or we say, sometimes I say, like, if you use latex paint on something that shouldn't, you know, that would need to normally be prepped, it will kind of sis. It will kind of like spider web and start to pull away from the surface. Chalk paint won't do that. So, you know, it's really a beautiful thing. Just clean. That's the only bit of prep work that we say. You also want to make sure that you stir your paint really well. That you stir it and you shake it up really well. So what I usually tell customers before they leave the shop is you want to give it a good shake, give it a good stir. I usually flip my piece, or my can rather, upside down while I am like cleaning and getting everything ready. That will kind of help it to all get mixed up. Give it a good shake, give it a good stir, and then you'll be good to go. So I'm also going to show you here how to paint on how your second coat is going to look once you dive in and do that first coat. I should have timed myself how long this took me to do this side here. You can see how quickly this goes. And I will tell you, like when I first started doing this and Annie came out with these brushes, I really wasn't sure about spending the money on the brushes because I'm frugal. Anybody else frugal, like a frugal DIYer? Yeah. And I was like, I don't need those brushes. They're kind of expensive. But let me tell you something. It's kind of like investing in good makeup brushes, or it's like investing in like all the same makeup products, like, or the same face care or hair care. The products are really meant to work together. I can assure you, you will not be disappointed with these brushes. They just do such a nice job. They cover so well. The paint goes on so beautifully. All right, so here's my first coat. I'm not going to get crazy and do this side. Maybe if anybody wants to come up and give it a shot, I'll let you paint the side here. But I'm going to jump over to my second side and do some painting over here so you can see how nicely this is going to cover. So, same process. You're going to wait until this is dry. It's going to take about 30 to 60 minutes for the paint to dry. And you're going to know, when you touch it and it feels chalky and matte, you're ready to go ahead and paint on your second coat. So now,
if anybody were to put water or glass down, would it take the paint off, or?
Good question. So chalk paint is a two-step process. You're going to paint and then you're going to seal it with a wax for a layer of sheen and protection. And that is going to protect it from, whatever, glass sliding across it, or, a heavy lamp sitting on it, or books or whatever. Isn't going to make the paint come off. If you don't wax your pieces, you can, it could stain it. You could get a little bit of a stain on there, which is always really easily fixed by just adding a little bit more paint. But your best bet is to just go ahead and wax it. And the beauty of the wax, does the wax mean that it's now a coat of steel and nothing can happen to it? No, nothing is, right? So I remember I had a client who we did a dining table for, and she had a big dinner, and she put her hot plates right on the table. And then she called me and she was like, well, I have these like marks on there now. And I'm like, well, like, you would never put a hot plate directly on any table, let alone, you know, a fine piece of hand-painted furniture. So you just want to be mindful. So, you know, use placemats, use coasters, but here's the thing, we were able to fix it. We just took a little bit of wax and buffed out the spots, and they were fine. So if you do get scuffs, scratches, marks, maybe you chip your paint, you get a little chip in it. You could just touch it up with a little bit of paint, put some wax over it, and you're good to go. I actually did a video on YouTube on that exact technique. I did all my baby's furniture in chalk paint, and her changing table, which is also her big dresser, it had, you know, some on the edges here, actually where I stand, where my husband stands to change her, the paint had chipped off a little bit. So we did a little video on just touching it up with a little bit of paint and then waxing over it, touching up the wax just to, you know, give it a fresh, clean look. And it was, you know, it's beautiful. So we had it working for about, I think it was like 8 months before we even touched it and did anything to it. And that, how many moms do I have here? Yeah, so you know how much use that changing table gets. It gets like a beating. So it was really, really good. Do you see how nicely the second coat is covering? It's just, you know.
And how many coats did you do?
You should do as many coats as you need to get the coverage that you want. So if you like this very thin coat, which I have done pieces where I've just done one thin coat, done some distressing, you could definitely do that. But 2 coats generally is going to give you just a nice amount of coverage, just so you can get, you know, solid coverage. And you can see here, you know, I went from a very, very dark piece to this light color very easily in 2 coats.
What is that color that you say?
So this was a custom color that we made using country gray, Paris gray, and French linen. Any other questions? Okay, all right, so what else do I want to talk about here? Okay, we just talked about paint, subsequent quotes. You're going to, if you want to sand your piece to distress it, you can certainly do that. So once this is dry, if you want to just take some sandpaper and kind of rub down the edges to get some of that darker wood tone to come through, you can definitely do that. You don't have to. It's just an effect, a look that you can add on. You can also use sandpaper to just smooth out the finish. If you do have any, you know, brush strokes that you want to kind of smooth out, you can definitely do that. There's lots of other techniques that you could do. You can put a coat on top of this called like a wash coat. So you're basically just watering down the paint and putting it on. That's going to give you like a color wash kind of an effect. I'll show you a couple samples of that. So this is a wash effect. So this was a base coat of duck egg blue, and then we did a white wash and a black wash on top of this, just to give it, you know, an effect. So it doesn't just look like a piece of furniture that's painted one solid color. You could do all kinds of different things like that with the paint. You can paint 2 colors and then distress it and do like a 2-color distress kind of an effect. So you have your undercolor kind of coming through. You could do this just with 1 coat and distress it like I mentioned, and just have that darker color coming through underneath. The possibilities are absolutely endless with chalk paint. So you know, just have fun with it. I mean, that's really the main key is having fun. We don't want you to feel like, oh my gosh, am I going to make a mistake? Or, you know, you can't make a mistake. I always say, you know, like there's some point in my project that I hate it. So if I hate it, that means keep going. You know, do another step, do another layer. You don't have to worry about this, you know, like gumming up and getting really thick, because it's not traditional latex paint. It's just going to lay really nice and flat on there. We also have lots of other products here that allow you to enhance your chalk paint. So we have pearl products that you can create a pearlized finish. We have metallics that you can add on. We have crackles and texture products, and you know, all kinds of really fun things. And then, like I mentioned, that temp paper, which we're going to be doing the demo for next month. We might have a really sweet surprise I have to finalize details. We might have a really sweet surprise for next month, so definitely keep an eye out. You won't want to miss it. So, you know, just have fun with it. That's what we're here for. We're here to help you, to guide you along the way. And, you know, we want to see what you're doing and what projects you're working on. Also, if anybody is ready to jump in today and you want to make some purchases, I'm going to offer 10% off of any of your purchase today. For coming and joining us. Thank you so much for coming and joining us on our demo day. No questions? This is way too easy.
So with the milk finish,
The milk paint?
yeah,
Okay.
is that you just brush on top of it, or do you have to water it down? Do you have to go lightly? How do you?
Are you referring to the wash finish? For
Yes.
This one? Okay. So we also carry the milk paint, which is a different type of paint. Comes in powder form. You mix it with water. It creates more of a rustic farmhouse, potentially chippy kind of a look. That's something totally different. We actually had a demo day on that a few months ago. The wash finish, which we were talking about, is with chalk paint. So I also have a YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, search Sweet Pieces. We have a channel. I have a ton of videos on there on how to do all this stuff. So if you get home, you're feeling confident now, you get home, you're like, oh my God, what did she say? Just go on my YouTube channel. I have like getting started with chalk paint, how to wash your brushes, how to do a wash. That's a video on there. But basically with a wash, the way that I like to do it is I have a spray bottle. I spritz my piece. I dip my brush. I don't use this brush. I use a chip brush. It's a cheap, thin brush. Dip it into the paint and swish it into that wet that I just sprayed all over my piece. And then it's like, it kind of looks watercolory, and I take like a rag and I kind of wipe it back until I get the effect that I want. The video on YouTube really goes into it much more depth.
Paint?
That's with chalk paint, and you
I
can.
thought that chalk paint was more of the farmhouse look. That's why I was confused. I was like, oh, I thought that it was gonna be like the original that you had did on the left-hand side. I thought that was more of the look. I didn't know it went so deep.
So here's the beautiful thing about chalk paint. You can create a farmhouse look. You can create a really modern glam look. You can create shabby
I didn't
chic.
even know that.
You can
Okay.
create rustic. You can basically do anything you want with chalk paint. The real difference between chalk paint and milk paint is that milk paint can create that chippy kind of an effect.
What do you mean by chippy?
So you're going to take a little field trip into the other room when I'm done, and you're going to see exactly what I mean. There's a piece right in that side room there. It's orange.
I've never heard of milk paint. I've only heard of
Okay.
chalk paint.
There's an orange piece in that room. I want everyone to go and look at it. Actually, there's a piece right behind you. So there's a desk right here, and do you see how the paint has kind of chipped and flaked off?
Yeah.
That's something that chalk paint really isn't going to do. That's something that milk paint kind of does on its own. And when does milk paint do that? It's a little bit unpredictable. So basically what's happening there is the paint isn't absorbing into the surface. It's being what is it called? Repelled. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. It's being repelled from the surface. So it's just kind of like chipping and flaking off. But it looks authentic. Like it was kind of
The piece
wearing the
behind
barn.
it, is that chalk paint?
No, that's milk paint also.
Oh, so a different look, same paint.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's the thing with these paints is you can create a multitude of different finishes with the
Okay.
paints, which is really great. But you know what we always recommend is come into the store and talk to us. Bring us pictures of the piece that you're doing. Show us what you want to do with it, and we can guide you on what the best product choices are. You know, that dresser that's behind the desk had a very like raw finish on it. It was like
So it was easier for it to
absorb it.
that white.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's why milk paint was such a great option, because it looks old and farmhousey already. The finish is really super
That
dry.
looks gorgeous.
Now this piece I would never do milk paint on
Yeah.
unless you can sand this and do the traditional prep
Make it more
work.
raw.
Exactly.
Okay.
But why would I do that?
Yeah, because
When I could just use chalk paint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you know, there's that. Those are the differences. Sometimes when a piece comes in, I'm like, oh my God, that's a milk paint piece. Like it's raw. It's like Americana. It's been somewhere for a long time. There's no finish on it. It's a great thing for milk paint. And then other times we know that's going to be chalk paint. So you know, you can really do a lot of different things with all the products that we carry.
So I'm going to use this on a brick wall,
Okay.
and I want the distressed look.
Okay.
So am I supposed to water it down a whole lot to do that, or do I wipe it after I?
Great question. So I actually have a photo, which is on my phone, which I'll show you after we finish our video here, of the difference between doing a dry brush of the paint versus doing a wash of the paint. So when you do a dry brush, you're kind of, would you mind handing me that little circular plastic piece? Yep, that right there. I'll show you this. So this right here, this is actually plastic. This is one of those little things that goes on the ceiling. So you can paint plastic with chalk paint. Plastic, fabric, metal, brick, concrete, glass, you name it. But this is a dry brush. So we painted this solid black first, okay? And then I took a brush with a tiny little bit of paint and I brushed on this blue. So that blue kind of caught on all the edges there. So imagine your brick and then you take a white and you just brush it on. That's going to be a dry brush. Where I would say that's going to be more of a distressed kind of a finish. Whereas if you take water and you add water to it and you start mushing it all around, everything is going to be white, but it's going to be kind of light. So you have to decide which one you like. I have a photo on my phone that explains it perfectly, but that kind of gives you like a little bit of a visual. And brick is a great thing to do with chalk paint. We've had a lot of customers do brick fireplaces and they come out gorgeous.
Do you have to seal it at all?
You don't. You just leave it. So that's like, you know, you would normally want to seal like furniture that you do with chalk paint, but there's certain things that you don't necessarily have to seal with wax, like brick being one of them. If you do outdoor pieces, things that are going to stay outdoors, you don't have to seal those, like pots and, you know, bird baths or, you know, garden decor. That kind of stuff doesn't have to be sealed. So
So the rain won't wash it away?
Nope, rain won't wash it away. It will wear over time. It's not going to start chipping and flaking. It's going to wear, but it's not. It's really a beautiful thing.
I use her brushes and everything,
Yeah.
and I can't not get brush strokes.
I agree.
Why? What am I doing wrong?
Are you trying to be too perfect with it?
No. In fact, I watched her videos. No, it's not a perfection thing at all. In
Are
fact,
you applying it as thinly as we were applying it here?
Maybe I wasn't.
That's definitely
It's probably
the reason.
right out of the can that I'm taking it, and I mean, I mix it really well, but I don't add any water to
So
it.
sometimes the paint just is thick, especially when you're working with those lighter colors like old white and pure white. So if you know, are just going regular, just that on its own, you really gotta like thin it. If you really don't want brush strokes, just thin it out and
how
be
long does it
patient.
work?
Right.
Like, how long can you keep those cans of paint? Because like I just did a bathroom, I redid the bathroom in one of the colors, but I still have like half a can left.
Yeah, you can keep it forever. Just don't put it out in the garage where it's gonna have like big temperature fluctuations. You can't let the paint freeze. And you want to make sure that your cans are sealed, that they're closed. When you open them, you may get, like it might be a little bit thick, but that's okay. Just add a little bit of water to it. But they'll stay good for years. I have cans of paint for years. Not around here, in my house though. You know, here they don't last. But you know, you want to think of it like nail polish. That first coat of paint, you want to think of it like nail polish. Like, have you ever been getting ready to go to a party? Oh God, I gotta do my nails, and you try to glob on that one coat. It never looks good, right? So it's the same thing with chalk paint. If you want a smooth finish, now there are times when you don't want a smooth finish. You want to create that texture, which you can also do with chalk paint. So you know, you really, depending on the look that you want, you'll apply the technique.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure.
I'm sorry, when you were talking about the brick and doing it, you said to use a dry brush.
Yeah.
So after the paint gets on it for a while, is it considered dry still?
Well, it's really, dry brush kind of refers to the technique of just not having a lot of paint on your brush. So you're dipping your brush into the paint, you're kind of offloading it a little, and then you're brushing it onto the surface. Once there's no more paint and it's not brushing on anymore, you dip it again a little bit, you offload it, and you brush it on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now I have to get the grout too because I'm dealing with 3 different surfaces with different colored grout. So how do I do it so that I can make it thick enough to cover the grout but not a full like that on the
So you can like use an artist brush like a nice thick, I think we have a couple of them, thick artist brush just to kind of like go in those lines. You could do it either before or after, and you don't have to be perfect because you kind of have the outside of the brick to kind of contend with, but you could just run a brush through there and do that.
So I couldn't just glob it on the whole thing, then wipe it off the surface of the brick itself?
It depends on how you want the finished product to look. If you want everything to be covered and it to just be washy, then yeah, you probably could do that. If you want some of that original, let's say the brick is red, really coming through, you can't do that. Because once you start wiping it, it's going to have a white hue to it. Do you see what I'm saying? Like the whole brick is going to be covered in some sense with white.
Okay.
You can't just like wipe it away. It's just going to start smearing onto it. Makes sense?
Can you paint tile?
Yes. Yes, you can. Wall or floor? So we've had a lot of customers. One in particular, I don't know if she's here, Elise. She has a space downstairs. She's also one of our peeps. She had that, typical square tile in the bathroom, and she painted it in French linen, and it looks so beautiful.
And what about the grout? What happens
She
there?
painted the grout too.
And then you have to wax it as well?
You should seal it with something. Annie actually has a lacquer product which is specifically for floors, but it's also great for tile.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one other question.
Yeah.
The samples on the board, is that the different wax?
That's right. So Annie, like we talked about, Annie's paint is 2 steps. First you paint, then you wax. We have 4 waxes available. Clear wax, white wax, black wax, and dark wax. And the 3 colored waxes, dark, black, and white, are all for effect. So you don't have to add them, but you're basically going to lay them on top of the clear most times. Again, we'll guide you with your projects if you need to use that clear first or not. But most of the time you're going to be using that clear first, and then you're going to put the colored wax on top of it to create an effect.
If you wanted to gel stain the top, did you do that first or after?
It really depends. I've had customers ask me that all the time. There's really no right or wrong. You could do it either way. Just tape it. I would just tape the area. Yeah. Yeah, we love frog tape. Frog tape is a great tape. Doesn't, peel the paint off or anything. So I would use that to tape it beforehand.
So like in that one, where it's a little darker around the trim, the balloon on the bottom,
Oh yeah.
how would you get like the darkness?
So that's wax. That's the black wax. We actually mixed black and dark. You can also mix your waxes to create different color waxes as well. This was our demo day last month. We did a waxing demo where we showed, how to do like a colored wax. So you put clear on the whole entire thing, and then you do the black or the dark or whatever you're doing, just kind of wherever you want. And we did it everywhere, but we kind of like wiped it away and moved it around just to kind of get it a little bit more heavily in the crevices. And we actually have that video on YouTube, right, Julie? So if you want to go back and watch it, you certainly can. I also have other videos on how to do like a dark wax finish, how to do. Do we have white wax? I think we have white wax. I think we do. Go and look. If I don't, tell me, and I'll do one. So thank you so much for joining us today for our demo day. I hope you'll check out our social media channels for the upcoming stuff. Next month we're going to be doing a really exciting demo, so stay tuned for all the details. Come on down to the store. We're open here in Huntington until 5 o'clock today. We're open in Massapequa till 4. 10% off your purchase if you mention that you watched Demo Day on Facebook. We will see you soon. We can't wait to meet you. Thanks so much.